Hello, everyone. My name is Andres Diaz, the host of the show. Me and Will are back again for another spectacular podcast. Will, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Very hot. Unfortunately, this weather is so crazy. So today we're gonna do something. We're doing another top 10 ranking. This is gonna be fun because this year's the 60th anniversary for Spider-Man, and I just thought it made sense to do a top 10 Spider-Man ranking of the villains. Just in general, the villains that we love since we grew up watching Spider-Man, and I'm very
hmm
excited to go over this list. And yeah, and I mean, we discussed, I think, from the 60th podcast about how I think Spider-Man has the second best rogues gallery after Batman, right? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I
yeah,
mean, besides Batman, I mean, he has the second best, right?
yeah. It probably
Uh,
is like Batman, Spider-Man, Flash.
yes,
Is
I
that
love the
yeah?
Flash. Hmm.
It's got a good rogue gallery there.
Yeah, and I think besides the films, like I think the majority of the villains we've seen are pretty much we know from the comics have been adapted into the live action films,
hmm
and of course getting their solo films, which doesn't make sense, but whatever. Um, but yeah, so uh, any before we start ranking, any honorable mentions? Who didn't make it to the cut? By the way, Will, for you in terms of your
Uh,
list.
hmm. We- Uh, the Tinkerer.
Oh, okay. That's okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, I
Okay. Um.
don't know. I think he's cool, but he's not like A-list.
Oh, that's true.
Uh,
Um.
um,
Uh. I do have to mention this. I actually don't have the two A-list villains in my list.
yeah.
Uh, Green Goblin and Venom is not in my list.
Okay. Yeah, they're both
So
on
in your
mine.
list. Okay. Okay. So
Uh,
I mean, I like Green Goblin, but I have this one Goblin that I like since the beginning of my childhood, and I just think he's such a cool character, and I will explain it because of this animation series made him more recognizable, and I feel like he has potential to be in live action.
hmm,
And and then Venom, I have I read the comics of Venom, and I mean he's a cool character. Just I just don't think he's great as a hero. I just feel like, oh, he's better as an anti-hero, but I just don't
yeah,
like the way we had treat the character. You know?
yeah. I agree. I like him better as
Yeah,
an
and
antagonist.
yeah, like I don't like that they made him be like a not a Deadpool, but like sort of like Harlequin a little bit, and if we
Yeah,
see in DC, it's like that for me.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so anyone else honorable mentions?
Um, Scorpion.
Mm, he was in my list a little bit until I was like, no, thank
hmm
you.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, great costume. I like him. I just I haven't read up to him, and I just you know I thought Scorpion versus Spider makes sense. I mean, I just I don't know, just I don't know. He's just there for me.
hmm
So do you have Shocker by any chance?
Uh, no, I don't.
Oh wow, I don't have Shocker either.
Oh,
Yeah, I
that's a good
love.
honorable mention.
Yeah, he's a good animator. I love the Shocker. I think his costume is great. I really love how Spider-Man: Homecoming brought the character into live action,
hmm
and I wish we use him more. And hopefully, maybe we see him in the Spider Verse, maybe one day.
hmm
Uh, yeah. I was having a tough time because, like, on the one hand, I haven't read too much of him, and then I like him in all his various meme appearances, from the '90s, spectacular. Like I love the spectacular version.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, oh god, it was tough for me. And I guess I don't know. You have Craven. Is he in your list?
He's toward the bottom, but yeah,
Okay, so he's in your list.
yeah.
Okay, okay, so okay, that's good because I would almost put him there because I again he's a great character. I like him. I'm very curious what the movie is going to be, but I don't have high hopes. But anyway,
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah.
um, I actually really love Kraven Last Hunt, the storyline.
Mm,
I that is probably my favorite Marvel story, so I think that's pretty good. So yeah, let's get into it. What's your number 10? Which I think that kind of makes
yeah.
sense.
Uh,
Yeah, Kraven the Hunter.
yeah. It's Craven.
This spot.
Oh.
So yeah,
Um, yeah. No, it's the concept of like a hunter that's like trying to hunt down a superhero is pretty cool. It's like a super powered version of the most dangerous game.
yes,
Uh,
yep.
yeah, it's a cool idea. And oh man, yeah, like a Craven Spider-Man movie would be really good.
I
Um,
know.
I'm
Ugh,
sad we're probably not going to get that, but
yeah. We almost got it. Like
I know. Yeah, I heard,
yeah,
but yeah,
I don't know if you knew this, but Spider-Man, the Holland third film was supposed to be Craven,
right. If they
and
couldn't get all the other the previous actors, it was going to be Craven.
yeah, uh, um, yeah, and then I think this is before Black Panther 2 was coming out, and before we knew anything about Namor and his involvement. It was like
Hmm.
a long time. It was like Kruger had interest to have Craven in the second Black Panther film, and that was like, okay, that's interesting, and but it made sense.
Hmm.
So I was kind of sad, and we sort of brought up the movie. I like the actor Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Hmm.
I think he's a great actor. I'm sad that he never got a chance to be a good Quicksilver. I do like him from Kick Ass, and I think he looks the part for Craven, but I just don't trust Sony and what they're doing with this whole Sony verse Spider-Man thing, and it's just I don't know. It's just like well, I I will say at least out of all the characters that make sense to make a movie, I think Craven makes sense because you can at least ground it into like this very like David Fincher game, basically. You know,
Mm.
so there's potential. I just like is Sony gonna allow the creative team to do this? Like allow this movie to have its potential to reach great. I don't know. That's my concern.
Hmm.
Like like the Suicide Squad, the first one. Like I was excited for it. I think Derriere like when he was talking about it before we the reshoots and all that. Like I think he got what he wanted to do with it. It was supposed to be a dark, psychological, character-driven movie, but then, of course, what happened with BBS just made the whole film messed up, and we didn't get that. And it was so unfortunate. And
Hmm.
we sort of got that for the sequel.
Yeah.
So yeah. Just curiosity, why he's not high in your list?
I just like other ones more, I think.
Okay.
Um, yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know. Like the other ones on my list are either like uh the ones that have like a like deeply personal connection to Peter or are just like
Mm.
dumb comic booky fun.
Oh,
Um,
cool. Yeah. I
yeah.
I I went with the most unique gimmick slash power.
Okay.
That's like how I did my list because like we were mentioning how him and Batman's rogues are like the top tier.
Hmm.
Like I think Spider-Man has like the most unique take on a gimmick I seen in any rogues, and then also the power set. Like I feel like some of these powers are very unique, and you put it with a Spider-Man, and it's like, huh, and it
Hmm.
worked.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
that's how I rank it, and you know, so and then also like which character that like I like the most, and I felt like they shine more into
Hmm.
the films, and cartoons. So but anything else for Craven?
No.
Oh,
What,
okay.
yeah. What was your
Okay.
10?
For my 10, I have the Sandman. So, uh,
Nice.
yep. So Flip Marco, he's at my number 10. This is where I mentioned special power that's unique. The idea of having a man with a sand ability is kind of cool, and I
Hmm.
just love it. Like one of these that makes Sandman great. He's such a good universal character. Like he's not only a Spider-Man character. Um, it's also he's in around the Marvel universe. Like he fought Fantastic Four. He's been
Hmm.
part of like the Faithful Four, and even the Avengers. I think, and I think that's shows you how much I think Sandman is has been utilized in the universe, which is great. Um, great stories too. I really like his character in the stories. Like he's like he's a small time crook having these powers, but like he's excuse me sort of a semi-civic criminal as well. Like one of the stories I love is when Spider-Man thinks he's doing some crime because he was having some like he escaped somewhere, but actually he was going to meet his mother during Christmas time, and like like that's something you don't see a lot in comics, and I really like that story, and I think that's where I like Sandman. And speaking of films, he is definitely the most visually unique in films we have so far. I mean, I love him in Spider-Man 3 with the fights. It's like when I saw it in theaters, I was like, "Oh my god, really got Sandman right." And
Hmm.
I kind of wish No Way Home did more with him, but at least he was consistent.
Hmm.
So yeah, and I think Thomas Hennon Church did a really awesome, and I think he was spot on as the of the character. Like he came straight out of the comic, just like
Hmm.
J.K. Simmons or Gary Oldman. So I think that was so just aspiring casting, and I just love this character. Not the reason I'm high on my list is just other characters that are unique and just are just great overall, and I think there's more you can do with Sandman.
Hmm.
So but what's your opinion on Sandman? Is he in your list? That's the
That's another like honorable mention. Like he's probably,
mm,
yeah. Um yeah, like
huh.
he's cool, but
Okay.
I don't know, he never like stood out to me as much as some of uh
Oh,
the other
okay.
ones. Yeah, like
Okay.
I really liked him in Spider-Man 3, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but like in the comics he was never one of my like favorites.
Yeah. I I think he like I think he's good with the Sinister Six, and then he
Mhm.
was always good outside of Spider-Man. I have to say.
Mm.
Um, yeah, one day I will send you a link of like a comic free online because there's a book called the Sandman trade collection, and I think that will be good for you to like see other stories because
Okay.
because there's stories where he fought the Fantastic Four, and then the story I mentioned about him visiting his mom is the story I think is the best Sandman story. So
Mm.
so I I I will get to that probably today after this recording. So but yeah, I feel like with Spider-Man, like he doesn't have that like killing joke story. I think because I think one of the issues with the villains sometimes they have to have this one big story that people
Mhm.
heard of that will make him top tier.
Yeah.
Like like Joker has this. I mean, Penguin has this with Pain and Prejudice. The Riddler has this like multiple times, like Syrier, or Dark Knight, Dark Half, and so many others. So, and if you
Hmm.
don't have that, it makes you like not low tier villain, but like just something missing with you.
Hmm.
So yeah. But yeah. Anything else? You want to move on to number 9?
Sure, yeah, we can move on.
Okay, let's go. What's your number 9?
My number nine was Rhino.
Oh, I was like, who else? I'm forgetting. Yeah, I forgot about Rhino. That's
Okay.
great because I mean, he's
Yeah,
a classic Rhino. He's a classic
yeah,
Spider-Man villain.
it's classic. Again, this is like that, like cartoony, like very comic booky, Spider-Man villain tier. He's just a dude, like a big guy that either dresses up like a rhino or is a rhino or is in like a rhino mech, depending on
The
the adaptation. But
Yeah,
um, that's just dumb fun, and I'm here for it.
yes.
Um, yeah,
I agree. I
it's
mean,
always fun when he shows up. Bonus points if he still has a Russian accent.
yes. Oh my God,
Yeah.
I love Paul Giamatti for committing to
Oh,
that. Oh my God.
yeah. Oh man, he really hammed it up,
Oh my
which was
God.
like that movie is terrible, but like he knew what he signed up for and he
Yeah.
committed, and it's fun.
Yes, I agreed. Oh my God,
Yeah.
when he's like, "Hello, my name is blah blah blah," and it's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe we actually heard that."
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's another thing I like about Spider-Man villains. They use like Aminal theme so
Yeah.
well,
Oh,
and
oh, I love it so much.
yeah, I just love the idea of having a Rhino as a villain, and I think I just cool concept. I love it, and
Hmm.
he's used greatly in each adaptation. Like he's great in the '90s. Spectacular is great, and also the PS4. I think they did a good job with that one.
Hmm.
And I mean, despite the live action one, like I kind of knew they're gonna do the costume, but like, I mean, the mech suit make sort of sense.
Yeah, I hope we eventually see a rhino in a Spider-Man movie. Like
Yeah,
that's like an actual
right. In
like,
the suit, yeah.
yeah, or yeah. I don't know. I
Um,
liked the PS4 interpretation.
yeah, that was the thing. I actually really liked that interpretation. Like I don't know. I think it's because like it's like the Juggernaut until we got it right in Deadpool 2.
Hmm.
Like it's like how big you want this character to be, like CGI wise, and
Right.
all that. It's just like just do as CGI as possible, and it looks good. Looks good.
Hmm.
You know. Like I was geeking out when Juggernaut has his helmet in Deadpool 2. I was like, thank God.
Hmm.
Because X-Men 3, the X-Men 3 version was just really awful and just not the right design.
Hmm.
Like so many of the X-Men, pre 2000 trilogy. Unfortunately, so oh my god. So you like the PS4 version, I guess.
Yeah, I like it's like a good mix of like he's clearly like bigger than a normal person, so like something's
Yeah,
up, but it's
yeah,
still like a mech suit. I don't know. It's a good like middle ground between like
yeah.
going full like half man, half rhino, and
Mhm, mhm.
like over justifying the mech suit.
Yeah. I really like the spectacular one. I think because I like how he has his partnership with the Sandman,
Hmm.
with my number 10, and I just like the way we made the suit, and I just like the way that character was realized in the cartoon.
Hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, I totally forgot about the Rhino. I was considering him until I was like, ugh, I he's just like he's kind of like a muscle man,
Yeah.
If we made Rhino to be like the bane of Spider-Man villains, I mean
Uh-huh.
that it could have been funny. Um, I mean that could have been cool. Like a smart person in a Rhino suit could have been interesting. But I just I when you have a character that's just like a petty criminal or like it's like a more muscle
Hmm.
brute. I'm like, okay, we got like ton of that.
Yeah,
Um,
I just like I think I would feel the same way about it if it wasn't for just like the Rhino gimmick.
yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
it's just kind of it's
yeah,
funny to me.
yeah. I know it's funny to me too. He will be number one for me as the like big brute supervillain out of all
Hmm.
the comics because I think because I don't like when because with the brute villains it's like always genetic muscle like supernatural thing.
Hmm.
Like I actually think Marvel has the best ones compared to DC. I think yeah, we got Summoning Grundy in DC, but like or Bane and all that. But like I think Rhino, Juggernaut, and then who else? I don't know who else is the big group, but like I I think those
A
two.
lot of Hulk villains.
Oh yeah, that's true. Abomination, but like at least those three, like I just name drop, are unique and like at least have a gimmick I can understand.
Hmm.
Well, Abomination, I don't know what gimmick they were going with, Fishman or whatever, but I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with that. So, um, yeah, but that's cool. That's good. You have Rhino. That's great. Gonna go to my number nine. Uh, I
Hmm.
guess.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So for my number nine is the Spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. He's on mine too.
oh really? Oh
Yeah.
my god. Oh
I
my
love
god.
this
That's
spot.
yes. Okay. I was like, okay, how I because when I
Yeah.
heard, well, when I heard that he was going to be I don't know, he's going to be the main villain for the Spidey-Verse
Hmm.
sequel. I
I'm
was
so
like,
excited.
yes, I know, me too.
Yeah. He's been my like dark horse favorite Spider-Man villain for a long time.
Yeah, I, 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 I mean,
Yeah.
first off,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
just I never thought we would see him in a movie, and I was so excited.
Yeah, his power again. This is a unique power
Hmm.
that is, it's actually one of the most powerful villain abilities, and is used very like comedically, but also very terrifying if you go
Hmm.
to that way.
Hmm.
And I think that's one of the things I like about the Spot. And one thing that makes the Spot unique is also the costume. That's
Hmm.
another thing I pick my villains is that they have to have a unique suit that you recognize them. Like Sandman has a very unique suit or like just appearance that you recognize that Sandman.
Hmm.
And the Spot just has a credible design, just black and white with like polka dots. It's incredible. I love it. And yeah, I mean, he has so much potential to be a villain in the outside in live action or cartoons. I like him in the '90s show.
Hmm.
They did like a one episode centric thing, and like the the technology that the Spot created became like a plot thread to that season of the '90s cartoon.
Hmm.
So that's cool. Um, yeah, I think overall I love the Spot. I think he's great. I just hate that they make him like a loser villain for some bizarre reason. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I
He definitely has like more potential than they've given him, which is why it's exciting that he's going to be in Spider-Verse because maybe they'll
y-
make him like actually menacing and like.
yeah, yeah. That like brief like was a constant art. Uh, just him not having eyes and just have that one black circle just in the center is just creepy, creepier than I was expecting for the Spot. So I
Hmm.
think there's a lot of potential with this character. I think the reason I put him number nine is I need to read more about the character. I think there's one story that is really good that they actually used the character right, and then some of his stories just take it too far as a loser villain, and I don't like that. So
Mhm.
So that's why he's my number nine. So so yeah, so I'm very excited for next year for Spider Verse
Yeah,
and see this character finally. And yeah, and I'll be happy to see him in live action one day. I mean,
that'd be pretty cool.
just yep,
Yeah,
yep, yep. So yep. All right, let's get it to number eight. What's your number eight?
yeah. Mine was Vulture.
Oh, you. We had the same.
Okay, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. No, it's just another one of the um, very prominent but like kind of goofy animal villains. Um,
Hmm.
which is like exactly what I want out of a comic book villain.
Yeah.
When I'm looking for like a fun, yeah. So
Yep. Yeah. No, no, I agree. We can just talk about this. This is our number eight.
yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I like about, well, it's very funny. I think what's cool about the Vulture is like your unique takes of the character.
Mhm.
Well, like the '90s one is so crazy. Like he's this young guy flying around, and then he gets infected with the because this was during the neogenics storyline in I think season two or three. I don't remember. Uh,
Mhm.
where he gets affected with the machine, and then he turns into like a vulture spider, and then of course the Spider-Man stops and become a creature, but he actually goes back and forth to young and old age,
Mhm.
and so it's just very bizarre. And then the spectacular one is great. That's the more business tycoon vulture, where he works with Oscorp. I think he's the first villain we actually see for the show, just like in the comics. I think,
Mhm.
which is great. Um, and it's voiced by Robert Englund, which is totally awesome. And I think that Vulture is amazing. And then you get to Spider-Man: Homecoming. Uh, I mean, Michael Keaton is. I mean, the Vulture is one of the best MCU villains I
Mhm.
think they ever did. Like that was where I was like, oh my god, I'm so happy about Phase Three.
Mhm. Yeah.
And just and great take too for that character.
Mhm.
Um, excuse me. So I mean, it's probably I I think the Vulture just he is just is good. I like the costume. I think like this is where you can change the costume and it looks still good. Like I like the PS4 costume.
Mhm.
I actually like the Homecoming one, and then the one with Spectacular is great because that's like a red, not
Mhm.
green.
Yep.
Uh, I think overall, I think Adrian Toomes is a fantastic character in terms of Spider-Man Rogues Gallery.
Yeah, I agree. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and I mean, I guess our favorite versions will be, Michael Keaton. Let's just not beat Bush around, I guess.
Yeah, that was the version that like made him not like a joke.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's the thing. I was shocked to,
yeah.
cause I haven't read any Vulture stories, and I wasn't not expecting the Vulture from Homecoming, and then I was just blown away after that car scene towards
Mhm.
the end of that movie. I was like, "Oh my god, can't believe we had this."
Mhm.
Yeah, and I was curious what Raimi can do with the Vulture if he had him in Spider-Man 3, and then or what he could do with him if Spider-Man 4 like went through.
Mhm.
Um, there was different castings. Like one like before Venom got into Spider-Man 3, it was like Ben Kingsley was the main runner up, and
Okay.
then yeah, and then the fourth when Spider-Man 4 was initially going to be in development. Like I think John Malkovich was going to be the Vulture, and
Oh, that'd be good. That's good casting.
yeah, and I was like, oh my god. But we got Michael Keaton, and I think that went well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
They
but
did
yeah,
such a good job of um adapting the costume for Michael Keaton's as well. Like it really fit the film.
yeah, and I like how they like not saying like Goofy like the Vulture like he was like a scavenger. Like I
Mhm.
kind of like
Yeah.
that. You know,
worked really well. Yeah.
y- it was just like Homecoming was the most well written MCU Holland film. Because
Hmm.
the other two have shaky writing, unfortunately, but Homecoming was just tightly written, and I think
Yeah.
just masterpiece.
Yeah. I love Homecoming.
Yeah, I love Homecoming. It's just a funny small scale film, which I love. It's just
Right.
great. Yeah, yeah. But yeah. Is there anything else we have to say about the Vulture? Um, I I guess I kind of wish we see him again. In a Series 6 film. In
Well,
Spider-Man.
we saw him in Morbius, so
Oh my God, no! I saw it in the internet, and I was like, oh my God, what we're doing, and like,
yeah,
it's just
that's
like,
so bad.
yeah, and I wish MCU have him, not Sony. It's just, oh,
Yeah, I hope
just,
they just like ignore that and put
hmm
him in another movie later.
yeah, I
Uh,
hope so.
they meaning
Yeah,
Marvel Studios and not Sony. I hope
yeah,
Sony never touches him again. But
yeah. Oh my
yeah,
God, it's just, I don't understand. I just don't understand. Anyway, let's move on. What's your number 8? Let's get into our number 8.
well, number 8 was Vulture, but uh,
Oh, okay. Oh,
what?
I'm sorry. Number 7. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Number
that's
7.
all right. Uh, for number 7, I did just all of the symbiotes.
Symbiotes.
Symbiotes. Yeah, I never
Okay.
know how to pronounce symbiotes. Symbiotes.
I mean, Sony didn't know how to pronounce it either, so
Yeah,
I don't blame you, buddy. Okay, so that's cool. So you got Toxic, Carnage, and Venom, I guess, all together. So
yeah,
okay. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. That's cool.
yeah.
Uh,
I think they're like a cool idea for a villain. Um,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
yeah, I
Yep,
like when Venom's like a dark reflection of Spider-Man.
yep,
I like the idea of like an alien parasite that like kind of takes on the like image of Spider-Man.
yeah.
Just like visually it's cool, but also like conceptually just like the like alien like life form.
Hmm. Yeah. I like the rules we set with the symbiotes.
Hmm.
Like, I like the idea of their weakness is sound. Like,
Yeah.
I really dug that. I think I also consider Carnage to be in my list. I did like Carnage. I think I like how he's like a dark reflection of Venom as well.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
um,
I definitely like both of them, but
yeah, yeah,
didn't want to put them both on the list. So
yeah. I know it's tough because well, I will say I think I like Carnage because he had the unique power set. Like, he can
mm,
form his weapons organically, and so
hmm.
that was always cool. And his red, like, color palette was always the best, because red always looks good in comics.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I guess I'm not too familiar with Toxin, but I mean, he looks cool. I just haven't read too much about him, the
Hmm.
character. But yeah, I'm kind of shocked it's not high in your list, like, with those characters. But I mean, I this they've been popular with everybody, so I think it makes sense to put it number 7.
Yeah, they've been done a lot. Um,
Yeah. Oh God.
so yeah.
Um. Yeah.
Otherwise,
So
I think they'd be higher.
yeah. So Well, I will say I like how just the symbiote mythos kind of change over time. Like,
Hmm.
did you know the beginning, when the black suit was with Pierre? It wasn't that it changed Pierre's personality. It just got him to be tired. You know,
Hmm.
because the cartoon changed that. The '90s cartoon, was the one that made the suggestion that the costume was affecting Pierre's behavior. I don't know if you knew about that, or you knew. If
Yeah, yeah, I think I knew that.
okay, because that was
Wasn't
something.
it?
Yeah,
No,
I
you
didn't.
go. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. You go first. I'm sorry. I was because it's because it was about because I didn't knew because I have the book and I didn't pay attention because it was like after Spider-Man 3 and like because I'm used to having the symbiotes affecting people's behavior, not
Hmm.
where because the symbiotes are alive, they're organisms and they took over the people's body and they drained them almost like a life force, and that
Hmm.
was what was they were doing with Peter and the initial lead up to
Hmm.
the black suit. So I just found it kind of interesting how the cartoon changed that and then made it into the movie, the live action one, Spider-Man 3. You know,
Hmm.
so yeah. And speaking of versions, do you have a favorite version of Venom? Uh, uh, I, I,
Uh,
I,
hmm,
I, I like the '90s cartoon. Well, Spectacular is actually best. Forget
it's a
about that.
good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if I have a favorite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know it's hard to
Yeah.
pick.
Yeah. I mean, it's only two good, and then just half bad, I guess.
Yeah, well,
I mean, I don't blame Spider-Man 3. I
yeah,
just,
I'm just trying
yeah.
to think of like the comics, if there's like
Oh,
an era of Venom. Um,
oh. I mean, '90s Venom, I think was peak,
mm,
and then I think mid 2000s we kind of relaxed a little bit until we expanded. I think more symbiotes, which we did in the '90s, but I think we brought in another villain like Toxin and all that.
hmm.
So yeah. So anyway, anything else for your number seven? Ready to go with mine?
Yeah, I'm ready to hear about yours.
Okay, so number seven. I don't know what you think about this one. But this is the Black Cat. She's at my number seven.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
that was another like honorable mention for me.
oh, okay. So, um, I really like the Black Cat. I think she's the Catwoman for Spider-Man. Obviously,
Hmm.
I mean her name Cat is pretty obvious. I really like the banter between her and Peter, and I like the various versions we've seen in the cartoons and medium, like
Hmm.
particularly with the spectacular one. Just spoilers by the way for everyone. It's being revealed that Felicia Hardy is like connected to Peter's uncle's murder, and like that is like an aspiring choice to do that like relationship between
Hmm.
Black Cat and Spider-Man, and it's a great episode. I highly recommend seeing that. And Spectacular Spider-Man. Um, I always look for female villains, and Spider-Man doesn't have well a couple here and there, but I think Black Cat cuts it because she has a good gimmick. She has a cat burger, which is great.
Hmm.
She has a great costume that's actually consistent. Compared to Catwoman. I mean, Catwoman now has a consistent suit, but like before, she was like so many costumes. Here, it's simple. It's black and white. It's great.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, and Felicia Hardy, I dug her character. I think her character has been used fantastically, and I like her in the PS4. I think she was great. That DLC
Hmm.
package. Um,
Yeah, that was good.
yeah, I think that's like her costume is like what I can imagine in the light action film. Um, and the brief appearance we got from Felisa Jones from Spider-Man 2. I wish
Hmm.
we got some. I wish we see her in live action. I think that's the one thing this needs to happen: seeing Black Cat in live action film. Because after I say after was it Zendaya? What's her name? Zendaya? MJ. I don't know why I was blanking that.
Someday. Yeah.
Yeah, Zendaya's character. I feel like Black Cat is the next thing to do for like a love interest for Peter.
Yeah, I
But
think that makes.
you know, and then like instead of grounded love interest, like do a superhero love interest for Spider-Man. I think that'd be interesting to see and different, you know.
Hmm.
But yeah, what's your opinion on Black Cat? I just kind of curious and you know, um, just
Yeah. Um, I really like her relationship with Peter as like a kind of unhealthy like love interest for when he's
yes,
like like college age and like figuring stuff out. Um, I think
yeah,
it works really well there.
yeah, yeah,
It adds to that like I know Stanley always described Spider-Man as like a soap opera with superheroes, but then to have
yes,
like Peter Parker's love interest be a
yep,
kind of anti-hero.
yeah.
Uh,
hmm
yeah, it's a
Well,
good
and
fit.
yeah, and it caused some like attention to MJ and Peter's relationship, like
Hmm.
as you saw with the PS4
Yep.
um and I'm trying to think the '90s. Well, yeah, in the '90s cartoon, it was that as well, you know.
Hmm.
So, but yeah. Do you have any favorite versions from the medium in terms of Black Cat? Have you seen the '90s cartoons version?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That one was interesting because her father was the one like seeing the super soldier like Rebirth project with Captain America, and
Hmm.
like, and then that is how Black Cat gets her powers and all that. It's like that's pretty neat. Uh,
Hmm.
uh, new lore for Cat, Black Cat. So yeah. Okay. So anything else say about Black Cat? We're ready to move on for number six.
Yeah, I'm ready to move on.
Okay, what's your number six?
Yeah. So this is where I put Spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if I have too much more to say. I think he's got like a cool design and really cool uh, powers that could lend themselves to interesting like fight scenes and stuff.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
just
very true.
very. I don't know. Like I like when they can like combine the use of his spots with like the like web shooting. I think it's like visually
Yes.
cool, and I think if we can get like I don't know. Again, I'm really looking forward to Spider-Verse 2 because I think just like visually, it's gonna
Look, look spectacular. And
yeah,
I forgot to mention the voice actor that is going to do it, Jason
Schwartzman.
Starchman. Yes, I'm
Yeah,
very excited for that one because
I
I
love
think, yeah, I love him and well, Rushmore and Scott Pilgrim and
him. Yeah, he was
just
also the drummer in a band that I like for a while.
oh yes, he's a
Yeah,
musician. I forgot. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay. Yes. Oh, that would be the next podcast for John and Will. Just John and Jane. Just to redo that Stanley or whatever that artist we had to do. Oh my god, it's just podcast. Uh, yeah. Oh my god. Well, what's the band name for that the actors in
It's Phantom Planet.
Phantom Planet?
He left it like a while ago. The band's been around for a long time, and he was their drummer like when they
Wow.
were first starting out, but then he left.
Oh wow. Okay. Phantom Planet. Okay. All right. I got it. Okay.
Okay.
I want to check out their music.
Yeah.
So okay, yeah, yeah, and who, I guess want to pose you a question: who could be the live action actor for Spot? Like who
I
could
don't know.
play
I feel like
this?
it could be like anyone because
Hmm.
it's not really like the guy behind the mask that's like the interesting part of Spot. So like
Yes.
it doesn't have to
Yeah.
you don't have to like look at like a
Yeah.
certain character.
Yeah.
So it's really just like who could pull off that like kind of
Hmm. I think because with the Spot, he's like a very like he's a good character to do a sympathetic villain.
hmm
That's how the '90s show did it. I could see Bill Hader or Adam Sandberg
Ooh,
to play that character.
okay. Bill Hader would be really interesting.
Yeah, because I feel like because I'm not saying he's like a loser, but like I think you have to have a regular
He can
person,
play a loser. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
because that's how the '90s cartoon did it. But like he didn't like because he just was playing around as a villain. Like he wasn't serious about this like villain role until the Kingpin or someone used him
Hmm.
to use his powers for evil.
Yeah.
Like I think that's where you take that character in live action.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, those are the two have in mind in terms of the live action spot. We ever
Okay.
get that. So yeah, okay. Can I reveal my number six?
Yeah.
Okay. So this one is a let's say it Electro is at my number six.
Right.
Of course, Maxwell Dylan is in my list number six. I kind of curious, is he in your list?
He's not. Um.
Wow, really?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't know. He definitely like could be. He just when I wrote it down, he didn't make the cut, but he's
Mm-hmm.
definitely up there. Again, another
Another,
honorable mention. There's so many good Spider-Man villains that they're
I
not all
know.
going to be on the
Yeah,
list.
yeah. It was tough because I was with you. I was like I was writing like I was typing
Hmm.
this in my notes, and I was like, should I put Electro? And I'm like, number six makes sense because he does have a shaky, comic history, but
Hmm.
and his costume is questionable. But I, I don't know what Steve Ditko was thinking about that costume, but anyway, but I think I if I had to run down his adaptation, like the '90s cartoon. He's a son of the Red Skull, and then the spectacular version. Well, the MTV version. He's like this teenager that's like sympathetic and like he's this very like messed up electric creature monster, and then
Hmm.
a spectacular same thing, but like he's he's this noble technician, like kind of like the early statistical comics, but like more tamer. But he started to lose grasp in reality after he got the powers in spectacular, and then the movies with Jimmy Fox, he's this, engineer, like highly smart engineer person that's not recognized. I think is such a good, like, uh, Spider-Man villain reason why he wants to be noticeable, and I think No Way Home fixed him, and
Hmm.
and just a great actor. Jamie Foxx playing Electro is aspiring choice, and I just love it. And his costume got changed. Like I mean, the ultimate like comics made him into the blue one. That's why we got it in Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2, and we fixed somewhat his OG costume and the regular continuity. So yeah, I think the there's something about Electro that works. Like it just his power set is great. Like Tricity is awesome. Like the little
Hmm.
streak is awesome. It's just like just visually appealing. And just the way Spider-Man fights him is like cool to see in panels and in movies too.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, his fight scene with Amazing Spider-Man 2 is just awesome towards the end. Like, just, I mean, when he did the Spidey, the little, was it Itsy Bite Spider
Hmm.
in those, like, conductors, it was like awesome scene. I love it.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I love Electro. He's a great character. I think he's been used so uniquely
Hmm.
outside of the comics, and I think number six just shows you why. I just think he's cool.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
he's great.
yeah, and yeah, and he has a cool villain theme too, in the movie. I just love it.
Hmm.
Like when he pop up, like when he first pop up in No Way Home, and then he has his eyes open, and then the theme kicks in. I was like, yes, he back. I was like, oh my god. So great character, and yeah, I mean, top tier villain for the Spider Rogues. Like he's part of the Sinister Six as well. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. 80 favorite version. I guess. Before we move on, like for Electro. Um,
Um. Hmm.
I mean that's a tough one. I mean,
Yeah. I liked uh Jamie Foxx in No Way Home.
yes, I do like him there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. This one's tough for me because I like Red Skull's son from the '90s cartoon,
Mm.
and I like the Spectacular one, and I like No Way Home's Jamie. Um, yeah. I did like the PS4. I
Yeah, that's good too. He like wasn't in it enough, I
yeah.
think,
I just wish
for
we
me to
did
like.
more.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get it in the sequel.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. I mean, he could break out and see him.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm sure he will at some point.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just. I mean, he's like Scarecrow. I feel like he's just a very cool visual villain, and you cannot
Yeah.
keep him away. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. So let's get into our number fives. What's your number five?
Yeah. Well, speaking of the PS4 game, this is a villain that I like mostly know from that.
Hmm.
But Mr. Negative.
Oh, that's funny. I have Mr. Negative after this. Okay.
Okay. Like
Yep.
as your number five or later?
Later. Later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I really liked him in the PS4 game.
Yep. Same here.
Um, I thought just like visually he was very interesting, and I thought that they made Martin Lee a very like sympathetic character in the game,
Yes.
and I
Yep.
liked the like dual personality uh, like aspects. Like the it's like Spider-Man's Two-Face kind of,
I,
but
yes, I was gonna say Two Face, and I
yeah,
just before you were finishing, I was like, he's like the Two Face for Spider Man.
yeah. Um, and then I know that like in the comics he's connected to like the Dark Force, right?
Yes, I believe.
Yeah, which is
Yeah. Uh,
yeah.
yeah. Well, I wouldn't speak too much with Mr. Negative, but one thing I like is this is from Dan Slott. I think out of the ideas that Dan Slott came up, I think this was the one I was like, no, this is a good one. I like his like was it Rorschach kind of color
Mm,
energy like
mm-hmm,
changing constantly. It's a cool visual,
mm-hmm,
and and then just Martin Lee being this kind of modern, was it like monster, like gangster, like like Yaxia kind of level villain. Like that's cool. We don't like. I mean, we do, but like we don't get that in a superpower way.
mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know. Um. And just the name. I just dug Mister Negative. It's just
Mm-hmm.
a cool villain name.
Yeah.
And
Man, I really love just like the visual of like just a person who looks like a film negative. Like
yes,
that's really interesting. It always looks so cool on screen.
yeah,
Um, or like in a panel. Um, yeah.
yeah, and I think the game did that very well. Like just
Yeah, it
and then
did.
yeah,
Oh man, I loved every section where you were like
yeah,
being
affected by it.
influenced by the yeah.
Yeah,
That's so good.
yeah, I love it too. Uh, oh my god, yeah. Just he's I mentioned the Spot as a potential villain. He's the one. Well, actually, Black Cat and this villain, I feel like are the two like needs to be in a live action movie.
Hmm.
Like I,
And they
it's
wasn't Feast from the game in
yes, yeah.
I guess it's not just from the game, but it was in No Way Home, right? That was the
Oh, no, no, no. It was first pop up in Far From Home, and
okay.
then it was brief, and then No Way Home we made that like official. Well, they they borrowed it from the game because the game may be this member of Beast, and
Right.
and
Yeah,
then
they made
and,
that connection. But I think Feast
yeah,
itself is from the comics.
yes, it's in the comics. I think.
Yeah.
Um, I it's been a while. I checked that, but yeah, it's from the comics, and it was just in the games they made this new idea that Aunt May became more like what you call like a volunteer helper,
Volunteer, yeah.
instead
Which
of
is
just
a great way to connect Peter and Mr. Negative. Again, like whenever there's that like personal connection to Peter Parker, that always adds
yes,
an interesting dynamic.
yes, I agree. Um, yeah, 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 that was cool, and I like how Peter was trying to help him. I feel like he did it, like he never gave up. That I
Yeah.
did appreciate that so much. But yeah, um, uh, anything else to say, Mister Negative? Before I talk more about him, am I?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, we can move on and then we'll get back to him later.
yeah. So number five, I don't know. You have him. The Kingpin. Wilson Fix is in my number five.
Yeah, I have him higher up on the list.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's number five because I mean, look, he's an awesome villain. I love him. I think his outside of the comics, he's been consistently good. The '90s
Mhm.
cartoon is great. The Michael Clark Duncan from the
Mhm.
Ben Affleck movie is great, and he reprised his role from the MTV Spider-Man show. Short-lived. It was pretty good. I don't think Spectacular had him. I think not because we were using Tombstone as the main mob boss.
Mhm.
And of course, Vincent D'Onofrio, the Daredevil live action show, that was great as well. Like it's been consistently good as a villain, and I just like the idea of like a Karma Falcone level boss, like for Spider-Man to face. The master criminal behind the scenes. Like it's good. It's refreshing.
Mhm.
Outside of like a superpower villain. And just the name Kingpin is just it's a perfect balance of villain name, but it's also like realistically possible in
Right.
real life.
Mhm.
So, it's tough for me. What is my favorite version of Kingpin? Like, it's like a and the Spider Verse, Kingpin,
Mhm.
awesome, great character. I mean, Lee Schreiber, great voice for that character. I love him.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, it's either Vincent or maybe Michael uh,
Okay.
Clark Duncan because I really
Yeah.
like that version.
Yeah. It's easily Vincent D'Onofrio for me, but
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean,
yeah. But
yeah,
I am a fan of Michael Clark Duncan.
yeah. I just think he just both like physically opposing
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
Kingpin and just ensemble. And the PS4, he was good there too.
Yeah. Yeah, he was.
So yeah, yeah, I love Kingpin. I'm curious where he's gonna be in your list. So yeah, so yeah. All right, let's. Anything else to say about the Kingpin before we move on to number four? Um,
Uh, I'll come back to him later.
okay, so number four is Mr. Negative for me. Can I
Okay.
like
Nice.
take
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Negative is number four for me. I again, just like you were saying, the PS4 like introduced me to this character when we got like the first teaser of it. I was like, who is this guy? And I just fell in love with this character, and I thought the idea of being like you're saying feel negative is kind of unique,
Mhm.
and and like the like controlling someone's behavior like negative aspect is unique, and like him being the two-face of Spider-Man is like kind of cool in a very super sci-fi way, which is great.
Mhm.
uh, just I think Martin Lee is probably the great newest villains we have so far in the comics, and I think it's great. And he is the one I really want to see as the next villain for a Spider-Man live action film. Just
Yeah.
the
I
potential
think
for
it'd
him.
be really good.
Yeah. Um, him and Black Cat I mentioned, those two are like the ones I really want to see,
Mhm.
in live action, just to shake up what we have previously.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, I hope one day I can start reading more from him, maybe. And he started to get into the cartoons. But I think he's in a good start, and I think the PS4 did a lot for him in terms of pop culture.
Yeah.
And I hope he be in Spider-Verse. I think that would be cool to see in that franchise. Just Mr. Negative as the villain for Spider-Verse, potential sequel or spin-off.
Yeah. Spin-off. Yeah.
Yeah. I There are just a couple of actors I think could be good for live action. Like Daniel Kim, of all people, I think he could be great as this villain in live
Mm.
action.
Yep. Hmm.
To tie him back from the Spider-Man franchise because he was a scientist briefly in Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was also like a soldier in Ang Lee's Hulk. Like that was like the first scene we're going to see General Ross. Like he gives him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so I
remember.
yeah, yep. So I think this would be a good way for him to be back in Marvel, and like this is like his third time to be in Marvel. you know. But yeah, I think Mr. Negative is cool. I love him, and I think number four. It's the right place for him for me. So
Mm.
yeah. But what's your number four? I'm kind of curious.
My number four is the lizard.
Yes, I knew the lizard had to be in this list.
Yeah.
I
No, I love the lizard. He's just like one of my favorites. Like I recognize that he's not like the best Spider-Man villain, but I have a soft spot for him. So he's higher than the rest of the like animal themed uh
yes, yeah,
goons. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Oh, no, he's top Spider-Man villain. Everyone knows the lizard.
yeah.
I just didn't put him because I I just never read too much of him, and I mean, despite that, I think he's great in cartoons. I mean, I love him in the
Hmm.
cartoons. It's
Yeah.
just the live action. Just I'm just not particularly fond of.
Okay. I mean, I really like.
Brace.
We've talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We
But
we talked about it. Yeah, it's
yeah. But
yeah.
no, I just have a soft spot for the lizard because it was like one of the first comics I picked up was his first appearance.
Oh
So.
wow. Okay. Yeah. Um. Yeah. He was number 10 or 9 for me when I'm making that list because I do like the lizard and I love his visual look. Like he wears a
Hmm.
trench coat and
Right. He's got the lab coat.
yeah, and it's just in the
Yeah.
purple pants. It's just like oh, classic. It's just yeah, just very classic, just villain look. And you mentioned personal connection. I love the connection with Peter. Like that's the one thing
Hmm.
I like about the lizards. Just the mentorship slash friendship that he has with Peter, and that why Peter just constantly protects Connors.
Hmm.
And the family aspect I really dug. And that's one of the things that it frustrating me that the live action didn't do that. Like I mean, we know it was in deleted scene, but like I wish it was more in the forefront of Connors in the live action films.
Yeah.
Which it's been all said in the podcast with the Spider-Man films, and
Hmm.
I just I feel like that's one thing it pulled me back not to have him on this list for me. So
Yeah.
you know, but who's your favorite version of the Lizard? I'm curious. I like.
Ooh, it's hard.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think Reese Ifans did like a really good job in the movie, even if the
yeah,
movie like kind of fumbled at the end.
yeah. Um,
Uh,
yeah. I like his chemistry with Andrew Garfield. I mean,
yeah,
that's
that's
it's good.
yeah. No, like they had a really believable like mentor mentee relationship.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's hard.
yeah. I because the Lizard that's like his two so far live action appearance. I think I it's not because the '90s cartoon did a good job with him. Um, Spectacular is great. The MTV version is unique. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, the MTV version is very unique. We like it's weird. Like Rob Zombie voiced the lizard voice.
Yeah,
When he's in lizard form. Weird. But yeah.
a
Oh god.
lot is unique about the MTV Spider-Man series.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like I have a disc. Like in my. I had the couple like the volume disc of that MTV version. Like the Electro one was weird. Like the Clark Duncan one, it was kind of cool.
Mhm.
Um, it just did the thing with Beware the Batman where you didn't use all the famous rogues gallery yet, which was kind of frustrating.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I never knew that Neil Patrick Harrison voice Spider-Man. Like that's a
Yeah.
great casting. I love
Mhm.
that one. I
Yeah.
wish he comes back one time. Yeah. So anyway, we're getting sidetracked here. Anyway, you think we're ready to do number three?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do number three.
My number three is Norman Osborn.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Green Goblin number three. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I guess less Green Goblin and more Norman
Just in
Osborn
general,
himself.
that makes
Um,
sense. I mean,
yeah. Again, I really like when there's that like personal connection to Peter. I think it adds to the like drama element. And then to have like this big like businessman slash like the mayor just adds a
yeah,
really interesting dynamic where it feels like Peter's like coming up against like forces like within the city itself, which is also
yeah.
going to be the theme when I talk about Kingpin in a second. Um,
Okay.
yeah, like
Yeah,
uh, I feel like Norman and Kingpin. It really feels like Peter's like part of New York and he's fighting for New York, and I really like that element of Spider-Man as well. So
yeah. That's true.
yeah,
Yeah, the '90s cartoon did that well. The PS4 is doing that very well.
yeah, I'm
Um,
excited to see what the PS4 does, like, or what the PlayStation games do in the sequel, because
yeah,
it seems like they're gonna delve into that some more.
yeah. Yeah, and I'm also curious when we're gonna do the Green Goblin, or we're just maybe gonna do the Venom with the Osborns, which that kind of, I mean,
Yeah,
that'd be
it
kind of
seems
cool.
like they've been setting up Harry as Venom,
Yeah, I,
and
I I'm
I'm hoping. I don't know. They crammed so much like story into the first one. Maybe we will get Green Goblin in the second one.
maybe. It's well, I mean, just like Batman, there's like a ton of things for Spider-Man that we can do. Like, I can see,
Yeah,
Spider-Verse one day with this version. Um,
yeah.
um,
I just
you know,
it feels like they were setting up like a longer like story that would span multiple games, and
yeah,
I don't know. Like things usually come in threes, so I feel like they're setting up Green Goblin to be like
the
the
big bad.
ultimate big bad,
Yeah, yeah.
and then probably we'd get into Spider Verse in like a fourth
Fourth,
game.
yeah. Because the
Might be
second we got
finish the
Venom.
trilogy. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Venom and Craven so far, right?
yep, yep. Very unique combo, I would say, with villains.
Yeah,
That's
well,
very.
I mean, the first game had Mr. Negative and the Sinister Six, so
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, my bad. I'm like, yeah, I see that. I forgot because Mr. Negative joins the Series Six, and I'm like, oh
right.
yeah, yeah, um, yeah, yeah. Oh god, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Kingpin.
Oh yeah, he's
Like
in.
they
Yeah,
they, they had so many villains and like and storylines in that game, and it just all man, I that game is my favorite Spider-Man story.
yeah,
Everything just works together so well.
yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah.
so
And Tombstone's in it as well. Oh yeah,
yeah,
Yep. hmm
Yeah,
I yep,
I'm
yep. I
I'm
got
very excited to revisit that like Spider-Man world again because they
yeah,
just nailed it.
yeah. And the Miles spinoff was also good too.
Yeah.
I did want to mention that. Yeah, yeah. So far, Insomnia is so far the next like Rocksteady so far. They're
Yeah.
doing a good job with the Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited for their Wolverine game too.
Yes, that I mean, like, oh my god, I'm so excited. I'm so happy we're getting like an X-Men related thing. You know,
hmm
finally. So, you brought up something that was kind of unique with Norman. I like how you didn't use the Green Goblin name. Because
hmm
that's the one thing I like about Norman, and or really the Osborn, is
hmm
like I think one of the things I appreciate about the Rose Gallery for Spider-Man, is the unique and just risky and changing um of the comics to the medium, and it
hmm
works so well compared to
hmm
other comic book things. Like Spectacular didn't do Norman as Green Goblin. They used Harry first, and that was something I was like, oh, I didn't expect that. I really appreciate that.
hmm
Or the '90s cartoon. We didn't get Green Goblin until later because we
hmm
we had Hobgoblin um uh, first, and I just feel like that's unique. And then Norman being in terms of the Marvel universe, like he does affect the Marvel universe, like Dark Reign, uh, him being the agent of Shield, the director of that for a
hmm
while. Like he did everything to play the chess and what was going on during the major events in Marvel Universe. So outside of this Green Goblin thing, he's like an affected like Lex Luthor, basically. And a Lex Luthor with a gimmick. You know,
hmm
so I really appreciate that, and I like the very familiar like family connection with Peter and Harry altogether, because Peter does look up to Norman as a father figure,
hmm
which we get that a lot in the like Raimi films, especially in the first one, and it's very unique because just how like Norman is very cynical and just how he takes responsibility in a way that's not good. Like, how you should not, take advantage of responsibility or like just not like honestly, taking like I said, what was it, taking care of it or like really be honest and just use it for the benefit of mankind, where he just tried to skip it or just take advantage of other people as he does. You see in other media, like how he take advantage of Doctor Octopus or Adrian Tunes in the Spectacular
hmm
show, or how Sam in the Raimi films he like pushes his assistant to do this untested drug formula on himself without any procedures. It's just this is how reckless Osborn is, and every time he's just doing these things.
hmm
Just because Peter is reckless too, but like he at least holds up to his recklessness every time.
Yeah.
So, and same thing with Harry. Harry is reckless and just he's also directing this as well.
hmm
So I really appreciate that about Norman, is that he's very flexible to use outside of the Goblin, which is great.
hmm
Because sometimes that's tough with villains, and I think Norman. I'm very surprised how we use him effectively outside of the Goblin. You know, mantle and all that. Outside of Spider-Man stuff. So I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
So yeah, and and I like his Iron Patriot. Like, got that in a movie,
Yeah.
and in Iron 3, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, yep. So it shows how good Norman is as a character.
hmm
Uh, so anything else with Norman Osborn? Oh, who's your favorite? I'm curious about this one. I
My
mean,
favorite Norman Osborn.
yeah, uh, I it's it's Willem Dafoe, right?
Yeah, I mean it's gotta be.
Right? I mean, I
Yeah,
I I
he does
I
a really good job.
I mean, I mean, great quotes. He gave us memes. I
So
do.
many memes.
Yes, like what's my general proposal, or is like kill again and again and again. It's like we're both dead.
Hmm.
Oh my god! And I have a soft spot with the spectacular. I do like that.
That's a really good one too. That was the other one I was thinking of saying. So.
Yeah, I just like. I mean, yes, he was cold, but like he at least was like a father to Harry, and I I like that he wasn't a goblin. You know, because that's my issue with the Osborns is the goblin, like how we build up the goblin thing is always an issue with these movies or adaptations sometimes.
Hmm.
Well, the cartoons they don't have a problem with this, but the movies they do. So that's the thing. And I was curious what Chris Cooper can do with this version if he had a chance.
Mm.
Um, but anyway, but he could have been easily been the ultimate goblin, I guess, with those nails he had. Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, that's definitely what they were building toward was the ultimate universe version.
Yeah, I'm shocked we never done that in live action yet. I mean, like, well, we sort of did that with Harry, I guess, but I mean,
Yeah.
well, yeah. Anyway, um, let's get into my other three. Are we, I guess, done with Norman Osborn? I guess.
Yeah, I
Um,
think so. Yeah, what's your
okay.
number three?
My number three is Mysterio.
Nice.
Yes, Quentin Beck is number three. I love Mysterio. I think his look is awesome. I mean, the fishbowl head, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Purple cape. I love his background. Like, I love he's like this movie special effects guy,
Mm-hmm.
and he uses it to just get fame and wants to be a superhero. That's cool. Just like Syndrome from The Incredibles. Like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, but less like. I mean, Syndrome was more tragic than Quentin, where Quentin just is just egotistical person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think he has the best gimmick. I think I love the illusions he does, and I really dug that. And the name Mysterio, great one.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll say that much, and I think his I'll say various adaptations have been consistent. I love it. The '90s cartoons great. The Spectacular is awesome. I think he appeared in second season, and I was so happy because he was really good. And then, of course, the games like Shattered Dimensions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I love that he was the main villain, and like that was cool. And of course, Jake Gyllenhaal, our boy, he's my god, the best thing about Far From Home. I love him,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I'm very excited to see him in either in the Spider Verse universe and or the PS4. I was kind of shocked he
Yeah.
wasn't in the PS4
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe he'll show up in a
uh,
sequel.
sequel or the third sequel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, because I was kind of shocked they didn't put him there because it was like a year before Far From Home came out, but I don't know, just
Yeah.
me. So yeah, yeah, Mysterio is great. I think he has great stories, and yeah, and Quentin Beck is the Mysterio because I know there's other versions that take
Yeah.
this role.
No,
So
for sure.
yeah, yeah, same thing with Vulture as well. I mean, every villain has these secondary people, but the main ones are like the OGs are still
Yeah.
great. So, but wait, is Mysterio on your list? I'm kind of curious.
He is not, but he's another one like Electro,
Oh,
where like he easily could have been. It just like
just
it
just
just wasn't feeling it at the exact time I wrote the list, but definitely I could see if I wrote it like a different day. I was just like in a different mood or something. He'd
yeah.
be on there.
Okay, no, I see it. I mean, yeah, it was like a time where I didn't care about Mysterio until I think Far From Home happened. I was like, oh
Mm,
no, I like this character. You
yeah,
know?
I mean that one sequence in Far From Home where he's got like the illusions and Peter's like he's like chasing Peter through it when he like first reveals that he's behind everything.
Yes, yeah.
It's so well done.
Or like when Pierre leaves the bar and he's like that wasn't so bad, and like the switch was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then his speech to the whole like his Mysterio crew is like, oh my god, just one of the best like just villain monologues from an actor. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I I didn't want to miss like Shattered Dimensions. Like that also gave like show how Mysterio could be a villain for a main game. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
so I really dug that, and I like his design too in that game.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so great character. Yeah, I mean, favorite version will be fictional. Really, he's for favorite versions. I gotta say, and one of the best live action uh villain costumes being adapted. This is like maybe besides Sandman, the closest we got for a Spider-Man villain, like
Mm-hmm.
directly adapted the comics right. Is it's I was shocked about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so good on Marvel Studios. Okay, let's get into number two. Who's your number two, Will?
So number two, I had Kingpin.
Okay, wow, man, I'm curious who's your number one now.
Yeah.
Um, I think I know who's gonna be there. Your number one. I
Yeah. I feel
swear.
like if my number one wasn't on the list, it'd be weird.
Yeah, same here.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. But yeah, number two is Kingpin. And I mean, we already talked about him a lot, but I'll just circle back to something I was saying about Norman Osborn. But like
Yes.
having Spider-Man fighting like a crime boss who's also like, like a real estate guy. Like I don't know, it just feels like very like he's fighting someone that's like a bad influence on the city, and
Yes.
it really feels very like he's fighting for New York, like he's fighting for his home, his neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Excuse me.
that works really well with Spider-Man's whole like ethos. So,
Yes,
uh,
and the theme of responsibility and power
hmm
as well.
hmm
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, and I also want to mention just like Norman, like also Kingpin is good outside of the Spider-Man universe. I mean,
oh, yeah, I mean,
you know,
I mostly think of him as a Daredevil villain, but like,
yeah, yeah.
um,
That's another thing we didn't mention was like it's. I mean, I don't know. It's a debate. It's like you either consider him to be a Spider-Man villain or a Daredevil villain because like
yeah,
he appeared both in the Spider-Man cartoon and then he appeared in the Daredevil live action movie and TV series, and it's just like you
yeah,
know, I never
I
seen
don't,
that like overlapped for a villain like that. You know?
yeah, I don't know. It really feels like he's just like a New York villain, and then Daredevil and Spider-Man are like the
Yeah,
superheroes that are most associated with New York.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Uh,
mean, he's like Lex Luthor meets like Carmen Falcone
hmm
together. You know?
hmm Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I he's also visually interesting, like the white like the white and purple scheme
hmm
in his
hmm
suits or like iconic. Like that's another thing I didn't bring up with him. It's like it's changing sometimes. Like the Daredevil Netflix show. It's like he got the white suit, in the third or or the PS4. Like he has a black suit, but like the purple is in his tie, and it's like
hmm
harking back from the comics.
hmm
And then the cartoons keep the white and purple all together.
Yeah. Well, he had a black suit in a Spider-Verse as well.
Oh yes, yes, that's true. I forgot what, what color he was wearing. That yeah, he was just, yeah, but
He's
he
just
was
like this big black
big.
mass.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. Um, yeah. Oh man. So, yeah, I was so happy. And that was the thing. If we're not gonna get any of like new villains, it makes sense to have Kingpin be the main villain for a Spider-Man villain.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I mean, I would love like
just
Spider-Man, Daredevil team up to fight Kingpin in a
exactly.
movie. I would love Spider-Man and Black Cat fighting Mr. Negative.
Yep.
Like I hope the next like trilogy of Spider-Man movies are like smaller scale, like New York,
Yeah.
like team ups.
Yeah. Peanuts. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And yeah, because I just really want to see Kingpin to be in live action against Spider-Man because we've been used to having him live action with Daredevil,
Hmm.
where Spider-Man would just have him with the cartoons or the game, really.
Hmm.
So I really want to see that, especially with the actors. Tom Holland versus Vincent. Like I really want to see that, and then Charlie with Tom, it would be just fantastic to see.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
you do first movie is Spider-Man and Daredevil versus Kingpin.
Mm,
Second movie you do
Mr.
Black
Negative.
Cat with Mr. Negative.
Mm-hmm.
Third movie you do Norman Osborn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We should also mention. I do like some of the other mafia people, like the Tombstone. Tombstone is
Hmm.
one I do want to see soon. I do like Tombstone. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, another character I consider in my list.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, we mentioned favorites, but like I kind of curious where we're gonna do with him and Borgian, like, cause I know they're gonna adapt a storyline where he was the mayor one time in the comics.
Mm.
So I'm very curious about that.
I don't
It's
think.
or maybe that's something that's like a ritual for the show, maybe. Because that was a new update, like a
Mm.
long time ago. What was the plot synopsis for Daredevil Bar again? So anyway, anything else with Kingpin? I love Kingpin as well. I think he's a great character. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah. Oh, we I last thing, the family. That's another thing I like about Kingpin. I do like his wife.
Hmm.
She's great in the show.
Yeah.
Uh, played by Kal-El, Clark Kent's biological mother in Man of Steel.
Oh.
Uh, and the son is also interesting because he becomes a villain as the Rose in the
Mm.
comics.
Hmm.
He's great in the '90s cartoon. I like that. Like he's also a villain, but also a family man as well. And it's interesting how he treats his family as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
How he uses responsibility and power around them, and it's just how he affects them. It's like that's one of the things I like about the Spider Verse is how the reason he's doing all this is to get his family back, and I doubt that. It adds dimension to him besides being this brute, uh, cynical, money grabbing, gangster or monster in New York.
Hmm.
So yeah, so okay, I guess are we ready for my second one?
Yeah.
So okay, so my second one. This is the Goblin I love the most, Hobgoblin. Roger Kingsley is my number two. Uh, kind of like Mr. Negative. The '90s cartoon made Hobgoblin famous. I mean, it's voiced by Luke Skywalker of all people, and
Hmm.
slash Joker, which I didn't recognize until I was like, oh no, he's blatantly using the Joker voice for Hobgoblin. Uh, and when he's wearing the mask, I just love Hobgoblin. He's great as a character. I love his visual look, the hood, and the orange cape. Like just like it's just awesome, and I just like him more than the Green Goblin. And I can see this costume be more realized. I think than the Green Goblin suit we have. But I mean, it's just my opinion.
Hmm.
Um, I think his involvement in the comics were crucial, like especially the Gang War storyline that was going on in the '80s, and I just wish the build up to who he was during the comics back then was better because it was very messy. Um, because it was supposed to be Kinsley, but then some reason the editorial team went with Ned Leeds, which is funny.
Mhm.
um, but yeah, so he's another character I really want to see in the live action Hobgoblin. Like, I'm just shocked we haven't had a chance to bring him into live action because he's like the one people know of from the '90s cartoon, you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah, but ever since the '90s cartoon, he hasn't been used too much. I don't know why. Like, I feel like he has great potential to be a villain. I don't
Yeah.
know.
He's like kind of similar to the Green Goblin. At least,
Mm,
you know,
yeah,
I don't know. I maybe it's like they feel like they should only use one of them and they go with the one that's like more well known. But
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
I definitely do think it would be interesting to see like more takes on Hobgoblin.
yeah. Because I I like the way the '90s cartoon did, and this is something you could do in the MCU. Like, first introduce the Hobgoblin. Like, because him and Norman before he's pre-Goblin, they
Mm-hmm.
were working for Kingpin. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and then I like how when Norman was, was supplying the Hobgoblin stuff, like that's how he got the Goblin suit for him. Is that he got it from the Hobgoblin? And I think that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's how you get the idea why Norman gets the Green Goblin suit, and all that,
Yeah.
from this other person that holds um uh the suit. So and it just and just in general, you mentioned relationship with Peter. Like, this character affects certain characters and characters you could bring in like Liz Allen. I mean, well, we had Liz Allen in
Right.
MCU, but like, reintroducing her again and using Hobgoblin could be great because that's another thing where she gets another sad and tragic twist where she finds out her boyfriend is this villain, just like in the
Mm-hmm.
'90s cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, just a great character I really love as a kid, and I thought should be used more. And I hope one day we see him in the game, PS4. So
Yeah.
so yeah. So okay, I um yeah. So let's get it to number one. I think I know who's gonna be number one. Who's your number one? Well, I
It's Doctor Octopus.
yep,
Yeah.
same here. Number one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Of
number
course.
one.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm surprised you have him at number one. I thought it was either Green Goblin or Kingpin. I am just so happy now. Oh God, I'm so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh my God, Doctor Octopus, number one best villain of Spider-Man
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, just tell me, what would make him to be your number one? Like, I'm curious.
I mean, like visually, he's
Oh yeah,
very cool. He's got a cool like power set. Like the mechanical arms are iconic,
yeah.
um,
Oh God,
and they can be like used in a bunch of like different and like creative ways.
yeah,
Um, Good for
yeah,
like fight scenes. Good for just like cool like science fiction storylines. And then again, like the real driver is just his relationship with Peter.
yeah,
So like whenever he's like a mentor figure for Peter Parker, that's always just such an interesting
yeah,
dynamic, like an interesting relationship. Um,
yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
agree. Which I think it started in the '90s cartoon.
Mm,
That's where the idea of him being a mentor to Peter comes from.
mhm.
Because in the Stanley and Stickle early days, he was like a scientist, uh, trying to get this experiment right, and then like got an accident and became this mad scientist.
Mhm.
Where I think the '90s cartoon like developed the idea of him being a mentor appear and really honing the idea of responsibility and power.
Mhm.
And of course got really great in Spider-Man 2 with Alfred Neil.
Mhm.
So and the PS4 as well. Yeah. I like the name Doctor Octopus. I just just a villain. Like I love how we merged the like was it the ambitalistic, but mix it with sci-fi is kind of cool,
Hmm.
and it's like it's seamlessly, which is cool. And then it's cool. He has also another nickname, Doc Ock, which is cool. You know,
Yeah.
it's great. Like you could alternate like Doctor Octopus or Doc Ock, which is cool.
Hmm.
And speaking of adaptations, I think he's also great in consistent great, like
Hmm.
'90s cartoon great. The spectacular versions is great. I mean, the movies, live actions, is the best villains we have in superhero cinema. You know, after Joker and Killmonger, and the Spider Verse is really great. Switcheroo and great iteration, and then the PS4 is awesome too. You know,
Hmm.
so I mean, he's just really great all around, and in terms of medium and comics, which is great. So I just love that. And he, in his costume, like like you could take liberties with it and change it. Like I I do dug the trench coat one, uh, more than the suit he usually wears.
Hmm.
It depends on what color you use it. I usually like the orange one because that's something we don't use a lot in comics, like '90s cartoon.
Hmm.
But I mean, overall, I think he has a very good visual, and you can change it up and then still be Dutch Octopus, no matter what, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, do you have a favorite version? I guess, uh, because
Oh,
I mean, this one is tough because it's
it
like
is tough.
I mean, I like because PS4, I was not expecting much from Dr. Octopus, but I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god.
They really did the mentor relationship really well in that game,
Mm-hmm.
and like the you could they made him really sympathetic. Like you could watch his fall from grace there.
Yeah. Oh, very sad.
Yeah.
Oh, and then towards the end, like he's like, "Please be here, help me."
Yeah.
It's like, oh, so
Oh
sad.
man.
Yeah, it's my god, tough. And then just, I mean, Alfred Milio is just he's pitch perfect as Doc Ock, and I mean, he was the one thing. Like, I was so excited for No Way Home, because
Hmm.
I didn't see him in theaters. I saw Goblin, Venom, and Sandman in theaters with the Raimi films, but not Doc Ock when I was a kid. So it was a big deal for me to see him on No Way Home and the big screen. It's just, oh my god, I was just so happy to see him there, and just seemed to take what he did, like what was it, 14 or what, how many years since Spider-Man 2? It was just amazing. Oh my god.
Hmm.
And then this is scene with Peter, the Maguire was just touching. I love it.
Hmm.
So yeah, just love it. Yeah, Doctor Octopus, number one, great villain. Uh, and you want to say more with Doctor Octopus, Will? Uh,
No, I think I'm all right. But
okay, yeah.
yeah.
Uh, I mean, there's so many characters we haven't mentioned. Like I mentioned Tombstone. Who else we haven't mentioned? I can't.
Hammerhead,
Oh my God, Hammerhead, I love him. Uh, we didn't mention
Silver
more.
Sable,
Oh,
Morbius. Yeah.
more.
Um,
Oh no! Oh my God! Yeah, Silver Silver. I like her. She
hmm.
she was almost on my list.
Yeah. Uh, Smythe.
Oh yeah, I hate myself now. I did like Smythe.
Smythe is good.
Yeah, I love Smythe. I love him in the '90s cartoon. He was great.
Hmm.
Then I who else? I try to figure out. The
The
Silvermane.
Chameleon.
Oh, the Chameleon. Yeah, that was the one that was in my list for a couple times until I was like, it's just um,
Mm.
but yeah, but yeah,
Uh,
Multiman. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that one's good too. Yeah, great villains from Spider-Man's Rose Gallery.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah. But thank you, Will, for joining me today for this podcast. It
Yeah.
was
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah, it was great to hear you voice and your imagined body and the blast screen we're seeing right now. But yes, so in 2 weeks we're gonna come back, folks, to do Black Panther, the Wakanda Forever Exploded cast. That
Mm-hmm.
will be our next thing, Will, which is crazy. That's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be our next thing.
Yeah.
So excited for that. So yeah, thank you so well. I really enjoyed this podcast. I was so happy to do this and rank my villains, Spider-Man. So and hopefully next year we'll do another one for some other character.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, yeah. Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Maybe we'll be back, of course, again for another spectacular podcast. Of course, this will be Black Panther in 2 weeks. For now, enjoy this podcast later in this week. Have a good night and goodbye.